protocol. You need to get out from back.
So we just tried to ask Governor Cox a question, and you see what happened here is they're laying hands on us. They're trying to physically remove us. And he just went out a back secure door, and of course they don't want him to answer questions about. Here, let's catch him out here. Let's run. Is there a specific reason he kind of avoids interviews that you guys know of?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
And so we just verified you're not supposed to be back here in the secured area, so we need to either go that way to the gatehouse or back into where you're supposed to be.
Okay,
So this is a secure area.
There's no restricted signs or trespassing signs.
The gates in the closed gates.
Okay.
And you busted through the door over here through the convention.
We just left the exit.
Okay, so
it says exit over there.
Okay, go try to get back in without doors. So let's
Okay.
have you either try to get back in with your friends or
Okay.
at the gate.
Yeah, we'll head back
This
in.
is a secure area.
Okay, sweet.
So we just verified that with inside.
Why doesn't Governor Cox answer questions?
Ask Governor Cox.
I tried. Try to schedule official ones with him. He doesn't do it.
You need to leave the restricted area. You've been told we're going to have the people of the event now come and escort you from the premise.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's up to you guys.
No, that's great. They can come and escort us.
Okay.
We'll comply with them. They can just escort us off. Thank you, guys. We are now going to be escorted off the premises. They say this is a secured area, which it is not. There's no posted, trespassing signs, no restriction signs. They told us that they're going to go in and get the event staff to now escort us out of the area. The governor is behind here, literally cowering and hiding in his car right now because he is afraid to answer simple questions that Americans and Utahns want to know about Utah being a sanctuary state, and not just a sanctuary state, but a secret sanctuary state, busing and flying illegal immigrants in, not just from Texas, from Florida, from Chicago, New York, pretty much anywhere you can possibly think of. This is happening here in Utah, behind the scenes. It's right out in the open, though, if you actually open your eyes and look. Take a walk through the airport. But you got the governor hiding here right now behind me, and we're about to be kicked out, so lovely. I was just trying to ask him some questions, but of course he didn't.
He's not going to answer for you.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to schedule official interviews with him, and
Okay.
nothing seemed to work. But
Yeah. He's not going to.
and I told them, I'd happily comply.
You want me to walk you back in?
Yeah, that'd be great. All right. Thank you, guys. Tell Governor Cox I say hello.
Sure.
He's not a very big fan of me, kind of showing how Utah's a sanctuary state, but he continues to deny it. So why do you guys think that is?
Okay.
I don't talk. I don't work for the government.
I know you know. You're the sheriff. It's Sheriff Smith, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, Tayler Hansen, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
And what's up, Utah? Welcome back to We Are the People Radio. This is your host, Jason Preston. And today, as you see, I've got somebody new. And if you're online much, you should recognize who we got here, because he's actually someone who I've been, for months, trying to track you down.
Yep.
This is Tayler Hansen with Tenet Media. He has been absolutely crushing it on the national scene. Exposing things going on the border, exposing all sorts of issues. I'm going to let him kind of talk a little about what he's been doing. But you recently moved here to Utah.
Yes, sir.
And when I found out he moved to Utah, I was like, we got to get that guy, because we need him exposing some of the stuff going on in our backyard.
Yeah, you got me.
So we got him. We got him. So we're pumped. And we got one even better. Why don't you introduce
This is
our guest?
my beautiful girlfriend, Mia Pavesic, and she does health and wellness content, and she's my cameraman, so she sees a lot of what's going on the ground as well.
Yeah, I love it, because Alexia and I had a chance to have lunch with you guys, and it's like, so when these guys travel, they travel together, and you do the camera stuff, and you're basically out there. Why don't you share a little bit with? Actually, before we get going, just make sure you're following us on all of our socials. The best thing is go to wearethepeople.org. Go to the website, sign up for newsletters, and that way we can push stuff out if and when they take stuff down. The video we just did on China with Michael Yan literally was on there 5 hours.
Of course.
And YouTube took it down. So make sure you're following there. And then also just want to give a shout out and a thanks to Innovive. Innovive's been amazing for supporting us. If if you haven't watched our shows about what's in the water, in the tap water, check out those shows and make sure you're supporting, or at least don't drink tap water, period. Find a way to not be drinking that stuff because it is absolutely toxic. Enough said. Let's freaking go. Tell us about Tayler and Mia. What have you guys been doing? What should these guys know about you, those who don't know what you do?
So as of recent, I started my career in reporting and journalism in 2020 with the 2020, Summer of Love riots.
Right.
And that's kind of where it got started. I started going undercover there, and that led to January 6th coverage. And from there, it was underage, basically drag show undercover work there, trying to get it banned in the state of Texas. And then after that, it's kind of shifted now to immigration, because that's the biggest problem I think we're facing today. And as of recently, we went down and we spent a week in Texas together, and we did
So the reporting you're doing is more kind of define how you're reporting. 'Cause you're not just out writing articles. What are you doing?
So I do on-the-ground field work. We're in the mix of it. I've never been one to write articles. I will write articles if I have to, but I think the important stories, at least with immigration, is you go to Mexico, you cross with the illegal immigrants, you show where they're from, you show the NGOs facilitating it. So everything that I do is going to be strictly on the ground.
I love it. So tell us about this last week, what you guys did.
Yeah, so last week we spent 7 days in Texas, and we started our adventure in Kinney County, which is basically a hub for human smuggling. Because the cartels, there's a connection between Houston, where the smugglers bring them up to, and Eagle Pass, Texas, which is where you see the National Guard being deployed right now and kind of trying to stop that.
Right.
And the connection there is you have the illegal immigrants that come through. If they're not processed properly by CBP, which of course they're still released into America when they are processed on a flight within a few hours. And the ones that are called the gotaways, they're intentionally evading Border Patrol due to crimes they've committed in their home country, or there's a plethora of other reasons. They're cartel connected, etc. And these guys will then get driven up, whether it's in a trunk, in someone's car. The cartel will target them on TikTok. Usually, they're very blatant about it. They have TikTok ads.
The cartel will target them on TikTok. What do you mean?
So it is an American citizen actually smuggling illegal immigrants. That's the common misconception about it. They think illegals are smuggling them, which they are in some cases. But most time they'll put out an ad saying, we need a delivery of chickens or pollos. That's what they call them. And it's basically code for you're smuggling illegal immigrants. And sometimes they'll, smuggle drugs, but a lot of the times in that county, it doesn't really come through there. That's more of an Arizona thing. But they'll put out these ads on TikTok saying, quick, easy money, $1,000 a head is usually the average going price for an illegal immigrant. And the more that you're willing to traffic, the more money that you make in the end, essentially.
So these Americans that respond to these TikTok ads, are they going into Mexico to pick them up, or are they picking them up once they come across the border?
They're coming across the border first, and the cartel, you organize, like I've talked to a few of these cartel guys on TikTok as well, just to try and see how the process works. And you message them info, they give you the info, then they send you over to WhatsApp, which is the app that all of them use. If you've ever seen illegal in the airport, they're always on WhatsApp. And then they will send you coordinates and say you pick them up here. And in some cases, they'll give you a car, or they'll tell you to go pick up a car first, unless you're willing to use your own, depending on the cartel. And then you go and pick up them at a certain point, a drop-off point they call it, and it's usually just an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere or a field or something. And you pick them up a few miles, north of the border. And then once you make that pickup, you are on a live call with the cartel member almost the entire time through WhatsApp, and they're live pinging you so they can ensure that you're actually doing the job. And then once you drop them off, then you get paid. So they'll give you a pickup point and a drop-off point. And that drop-off point is usually in Houston, which then, the illegal immigrants will kind of conglomerate and live in Houston for a few years until they're then pushed into Colony Ridge.
Jeez. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, when we were down in Kinney County, I mean, the first night that we went, we were with my favorite deputy out there, Deputy Molinar. He's great. He's a fantastic cop. It's some of the finest policing I've ever seen. I mean, they know all the locals. It's a very small county, but the way that it's set up, almost all the cartel traffic, at least the human smuggling traffic, has to go up through 4 of those freeways in that region. So they know all the locals, all the cars that come through there. So they see a car that they, can't identify. They have very, I'd say, spectacular tracking software, being able to say, I can't go too much into it because I don't want to compromise their investigations, but, it tracks where they've been, where they're going. And a lot of the times certain patterns flag in the system. Like if they make consistent trips from Eagle Pass to San Antonio or to Eagle Pass to Houston, then that's a red flag. So then they'll pull them over on probable cause if they're driving over the lines, going over the speed limit, and or if the suspension is weighted down because it's a territory for human smuggling. So they can pretty much get them on anything. And I have not seen these officers be wrong a single time. And this operation, you have Operation Lone Star, so you have DPS guys, you have Galveston officers, you have some Florida patrol out there as well. So it's basically a big operation where you have 4 to 6 different agencies coming together to try and stop the human smuggling in this one region. But when we were out there, I mean, we had 3 stops in one night within 2 hours.
So you
of
go
each
out
other.
there and you ride along with the cops? Is that what you do?
Yeah, so you just do a ride along with the cops, and they kind of give you the inside look at the investigation. You kind of get a hold of it the more
And
times
they let
that
you do that
go.
because you're a reporter.
Yep.
That's it. So
Yeah, well, and
so
they've
you can see what
they'll even let left-wing media do it. They haven't had fantastic experiences. Vice was down there, some other organizations were down there. They try and smear the sheriff. Kinney County, the best way to describe it is it's like the Wild West, essentially. And you walk into the sheriff's office and there's a big Trump cutout. So this is these are the kind of people you're dealing with.
These are our boys.
Yeah, but no, they're fantastic. Some of the finest policing work I've ever seen. But within an hour, there was one stop, and that had, I believe, 5 illegal immigrants, and the driver was actually an illegal immigrant too. And I can play that video for everybody.
Yeah,
to
show
see.
us. So tell us what we're looking at too. This is your Twitter page.
Yeah, this is Tenet's Twitter page. This is the media company that I work for.
Okay, so you work for Tenet.
Yes, sir.
And, okay, so your stuff's up on this. Okay.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit later in the night. This is the second stop of the night, and this is where Deputy Molinar actually got out, and they call it a bailout. So when one of these smugglers then bail out of the car, they usually attempt to run, and he did attempt to run in this, but then Deputy Molinar pulled his firearm out on him and told him to get on the ground and to comply because he knew they had illegals in the trunk.
So yeah, this wasn't the first one with the 5
Yeah,
in the
this
back.
was the second stop of the night. I don't have the first one pulled up, but it's all the exact same thing, exact same patterns. So.
Okay.
Hey, I'm coming up in now.
Yeah, are you the one recording this?
It pulled off on its own.
I wasn't.
Bella. Hey, no se muevan! Hay que dar la troca. Hey, get the fuck out. No. Get over here. Get over here. Get the fuck on the ground. Why the fuck are you getting out? Get the fuck on the ground. Don't be jumping out of the car. Get on the fucking ground.
You see
Get
how
on the
quick they
ground,
are
bro.
to draw their firearms. I mean, these cops get shot at on a consistent basis, so they have to be ready. And in this instance, you have 3 illegals in the
turn off the
trunk, and
car.
you have a separate driver as well. That was essentially manipulated into driving these illegals across the country
Keep your
due to
hands
the
up.
passenger,
Don't
because then
fucking
the most of the charges will then fall on the
Put your hands
driver.
behind your back. You're being detained right now.
You essentially just detained the driver really quick, and she had just gotten arrested, out on parole, of course, not for human smuggling, but in a lot of cases they will be out on human smuggling. And then you have the 3 illegal immigrants just stuffed in the trunk together.
So
This
the
is a very
illegals,
common
these
thing.
are the illegals. The people in the
Yep.
car are all legal.
Yeah, those 2 are legal citizens of the United States.
There's 3 people in the trunk?
Yeah, you'll see them pile out here. It's a clown car.
With a box of stuff in there too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is considered a small load as well. So 3 is usually a small load. You get anywhere between 5. They've had cases of 30 people in one vehicle. Sometimes they have U-Haul, Penske trucks. It gets crazy out there.
Jeez.
But yeah, just a normal day in Kinney County right here.
So they catch these guys, and then what are they doing? Turn
So
over to,
it depends
Turn over
on the
ice or-
case. Later in the night, there was the high-speed pursuit that took place, and that is then federal charges just due to them running from DPS officers, and it heightens the level of the crime. And then they file it separately, the evading officers. But at that point, the evading charge doesn't really even matter because the severity of the crime that they've committed. But every single illegal immigrant that they smuggle is 1 felony added onto it. And I believe it's a 3rd-degree felony for every single one.
so what was, you said there was one where there was like a car chase. You have that one on
Yeah,
there?
I can show that one.
Awesome.
This was a high-speed pursuit. It exceeded over 140 miles per hour. So they saw DPS. They pulled over because they realized they were going to get lit up. They let the 2 illegal immigrants out of the trunk. They usually call it just, a pre-drop off. So if they know that they're going, they think that, if they drop them off, they're going to be arrested as long as nobody saw it. And even if they did see it, then they can just deny it. But they're still going to get charged with those 2 third-degree felonies for each illegal immigrant because there was a witness body cam, footage from the police car.
And they did end up getting those 2.
Yeah,
'cause
they ended
were on
up
foot
catching those
running.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shows the spiking process. Deputy Molinar successfully spiked this car. It was going over 100 miles an hour at the time that he spiked
So they know
it.
that's coming down the road.
Yep. There's over 10 cops following him at this point.
This is him?
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. So this is you guys like hanging out last week?
Yep. just a casual hangout.
Mia, what do you think of all this?
Insane. You know, you wouldn't expect it. You think that this stuff isn't actually going on, but it was like 3 in one night that we even saw. You know?
Well, and this is the normal.
Yeah,
This
and
is-
it's during the day too. It's not just at night. It's like during broad daylight happening.
when the cartels change their tactics up as they're getting less and less successful smuggling them over. So I mean, these are multi-billion-dollar industries. I mean, they're richer than a lot of governments around the world. So they have the means to. I mean, they have something called spotters, and they'll hire a local resident, or they'll hire somebody that's just willing to do it.
Crackhead or
And
something.
yeah, even a crackhead. Like a lot of the crackheads in Kinney County, they end up making ends meet even though they don't work, and you got to wonder why. It's because all they have to do is, okay, there's a border patrol checkpoint here, there's one here. These officers are on shift today, and they don't like certain officers as much as others because some are more successful than others. Like Molinar, I would say he's been in the police force for over 10 years just in Kinney County. He can look at a car and immediately say that has illegals in it. It's some of the craziest stuff I've ever seen. But they're very good with pattern recognition here, and just the technology that they use. They've done a very good job at combating the human smuggling. Of course, some still get away, but high-speed pursuits, rollovers, and most of the rollovers, of course, the roads are pretty sketchy out in Kinney County. You'll have a smuggler, whether he's an illegal immigrant or an American citizen that isn't from the area, he'll have 10 illegals in, and they'll roll over going 130, and it's just a bloodbath.
So that's wild. So obviously you know that they're also busing people in. So it seems like there's several ways that they're coming through the border. They hide out in certain houses, and then they wait for the cartel to have someone who is hired to then deliver them, I guess, somewhere like deeper in the country where they're not going to, I don't know, where they can get away or get out. So, but then you also see that there's stories about people just being bussed and flown around, and so what's the difference? I mean,
So
why it makes? I mean, it's why does some of these people have to go through such risk when other people are just getting bussed up
The
there?
primary difference is sometimes it's just the illegal having criminal charges that would originally get them deported by CBP. You do have some murderers here. You have a decent amount of them, actually. There was a guy caught. I think you sent me the article of the Venezuelan caught. He was a leader of a Venezuelan gang, registered murderer, whole 9 yards. So those are the kind of guys that get smuggled this way. So people that would usually be denied, they're taken in by CBP if they were just to walk over and get processed. Those are the guys that immediately get deported back to Mexico, and then they got to try again. But the people that come through and get processed by CBP, they have lesser crimes or no registered crimes that can be tracked. And they actually are seeking out Border Patrol. So if you've ever been on the border, that's immediately what the illegal immigrants do, that actually want to get processed into the country. And then those are the ones that end up getting bussed by Greg Abbott or flown into different states. So that's the main difference is, the criminals usually get smuggled like this, or they owe a debt to the cartel. They're going to be working for the cartel in some capacity or manner, and they have a debt to pay off.
So tell us about what is the camp where a lot of these guys are staying?
So that kind of goes on par with the gotaways is what you call them. Those are a lot of the criminals, a lot of the people that have criminal records. And the kind of the route through Kinney County is a lot of the times when you talk to the cartels, they will be the drop-off point, the pickup point right out of Eagle Pass. The drop-off point will then be Houston. So, and then in Houston, they stay there for a few years. And then once they, conglomerate some funds, and they go to a place called Colony Ridge. Okay. And Colony Ridge is, they're, multi-billion-dollar investor in it, and his brother is a huge investor, donated $1.2 million to Greg Abbott in the last election cycle. So it raises flags when it comes to...
Okay, run this. Okay, so the guy who owns Colony Ridge and is basically put several $1 million into... Can you pull up video of Colony Ridge? Because you guys got video footage of that, right?
Yep. Yeah, so this is just a quick little drone shot of the conditions in Colony Ridge. There's no safety regulations. They claim to have an HOA, which of course is not the case. There is not a single fire extinguisher in this entire place, no road lines, nothing of the sort. And something worth noting before we play this footage is we watched 2 illegal immigrants get into a pretty severe crash. There were whole van in the trench, everything. They had to pull it out
last week.
Yeah, we saw this last week, and we kind of go on scene and we're trying to check out what's going on, and they all have Venezuelan IDs. They're all illegals from Venezuela, because the way that the developer has this set up is you don't need a U.S. ID to actually purchase property here. They have it set up so you purchase property, you purchase the land, and then they claim that it has water, sewage, everything. It doesn't. There's no evidence of that. I mean,
fire hydrants.
Yeah, literally nothing to actually live properly. And then there's places that sell wood on the side of the street. Everything is in Spanish in these areas. So it is quite literally over 90% illegal immigrants. And this is one of the largest places I've ever seen in my life. We drove around for well over 10 hours combined, and we didn't even make it through the entire thing.
Yeah.
It's that big?
It is
Huge.
massive.
Roundabouts everywhere.
So
it's like,
go ahead.
I was just saying, there's roundabouts everywhere. It's like a 4-way roundabout going in every direction. They all look the same. Stray dogs everywhere. It literally looks like Little Mexico. Like, we got an interview of somebody saying if they could describe what it was like Little Mexico.
And where in Texas is this?
This is 30 minutes north of Houston, Texas.
And so this developer, what's his name that has all the money?
I'm not sure the main developer's name. I have it somewhere in my notes.
Too. There was like one, and then he switched to the other
And
one.
then
One of them
his,
can't be found at all.
But this is the guy that's donated to Abbott.
So his brother Trey is the guy. He's a second developer on the project, and he's actually disappeared now ever since the DOJ lawsuit was filed against Colony Ridge, which is interesting. Nobody can find him. Nobody knows where he's at. And he donated in the 2020 election cycle $1.2 million to Greg Abbott for some reason.
Yeah, actually, Michael Yon actually brought that up, brought this up, and brought up this guy because he's talking about Abbott being World Economic Forum, and that's just one of the things he brought up is the money he got from this guy.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, this could easily be shut down. The way they market it is all their marketing is in Spanish. It's all on TikTok. They market in different countries. They claim not to, but there's evidence that is directly, on the contrary. And I mean, they're quite literally marketing towards illegal immigrants. That's who they want to move there.
So if I'm illegal, or if I live in another country and I want to come to America illegally, there's a good chance I know about Colony Ridge.
Absolutely.
That I've been told about it through TikTok or whatever. And my goal is to get to there because once I'm there, I will be able to live, hang out, do whatever I want without being get land. I mean, it's so how does that work then? Because that's clearly, I mean, I can't imagine this is illegal.
No, well, I mean, in my mind, I don't see any avenue this could possibly be legal.
So how is it? So how is it that Abbott in Texas, who supposedly cares so much about the border and cares so much about America, lets this go down?
Well, the reality is they could easily shut it down. There is a DOJ suit being filed right now, but it's not for the sake of how it should be filed. Yeah, there are some realities in it, but it basically details how they're scamming people they're selling a dream that isn't actually available there. They're saying that the water hookups are there, the sewer hookups, everything that you need to live is already on the property, when in reality, it is not on the property. Most of these properties, or these lots, they start out as lots. Then they have literally nothing for you to live. I mean, there's sewage everywhere. There's tests that have came back, all the water, it has fecal matter that tests positive in the water. I mean, it's a very nasty place. And the developer's name is John Harris. And then Trey Harris, his brother, is the one that donated $1.2 million to Greg
John Harris
Abbott.
and Trey Harris.
Yep.
Okay. What about, is there problems with trafficking out in these areas?
Yes. So there's confirmed cartel activity. I mean, there's MS-13 out there. There's multiple different cartels, and there's some local Houston gangs out there as well. And everything is predominantly Spanish. Like, you cannot find an English speaker in here unless you really, really look, or they were duped into the false advertising from them. We met a few of them, and every single time, like, the locals are terrified to actually speak. The residents, all of these, the Spanish-speaking people, they're terrified. They won't speak on the cartels. They won't speak on the conditions of living there. But then you have, people that move in that are also duped by these advertisements, and just normal Americans thinking, oh, I need a slice of the American dream. I can own land. I can do this, and it's $500 to $1,000 down at a 12.9% interest rate. At least that's what they advertise it at. And then boom, you own land. So it's that easy. You just start developing, start doing this. But it's really just false advertising, essentially, and that's what the DOJ is filing suit against, and Ken Paxton has publicly spoken out against Colony Ridge as well. But it makes you wonder what politicians are paid off, whole 9 yards. But I mean, you go into the bathrooms here, there's MS-13 carved all over the bathrooms inside, and it doesn't matter, if you're in a nicer place in Colony Ridge, because it's very deceptive on the exterior. The first people they were selling to were American citizens. And those are the kind of the people that got in first. So they have very beautifully built homes, very nice. It took us 4 hours to actually find.
And they were marketing the place to these people as a place with like horse trails in the back and, an area that you would want to live in. And they try to make it look like that. The outside does look like that. We couldn't even find it for the first, day that we were there.
We
couldn't
did a
find
whole
it.
day of driving around
We
asking
asked people.
residents.
People didn't even know it existed, except for one gas station worker who ended up telling us. He gave us a wrong direction. I guess he didn't know either. But then he told us not to go there after dark. Like
Yep.
he was telling us it is dangerous.
The amount of people that we had tell us get out before dark, I mean, well over 5 of the people that we talked to, and that was anybody that was in the know about it that was willing to talk. They said you need to get out of here.
Is this
before it gets
patrolled
dark."
by police? Is
So
this
it's there's patrolled by constables
Yeah.
in Liberty County, but they can't really enforce anything because these are illegal immigrants. So all they can do is write them a court date and then hope they show up. And that's the same conversation I had with DPS in the crash. You know, he's just there to facilitate, to make sure they're not getting in fights, not doing certain things. And then they go their separate ways. He gets pictures of their ID. They get a court date. They don't show up. And even if they, you know, most times they will not show up. And he even said, he's like, well, you know, if we actually enforce the law out here, you know, because no one has a driver's license out there. It's complete chaos. Every 10 minutes you see a car crash because these people don't have a driver's license.
And it
They
seems
don't
like
really
that was
know.
the only reason that you would see cops with lights on was because of some type of accident, or they were called. They weren't like actively patrolling the area and
Or a fire because there's no safety
exactly,
regulations
yeah, there's
out
no
there.
fire hydrants.
Well, yeah,
in
and he
Tenet.
said that, you know, if they enforce the law out there in the way that they would just normal American city, the jail would be filled within a single night. So they really can't enforce anything out there. They're more is just there for a physical or a deterrent on the surface. They just kind of are there for looks, essentially. But I can show you this video. This is just a little kind of glimpse into Colony Ridge. And there's much worse places than this as well. But it gets insane. It's basically the world's largest trailer park is what I would liken it to. And most of these houses, they're held up on stilts. Most of them have holes in the side of them. I mean, these are even some of the nicer. This is one of the nicer areas in Colony Ridge. And what really stuck out to me is everyone out here, whether their house is basically held up by cinder blocks, anything, they all have super nice cars.
brand new, like
Brand new cars.
less than 10 years old.
How is that?
So there is a car dealership, I suspect, we weren't able to confirm it, but right across the street from Colony Ridge, where they actually have the agency that sells the land, the official offices, there's a car dealership that offers the same kind of loan process. So no American ID needed, $500 down, you can get yourself a brand new car. So they're driving, nicer cars than I am. It's insane out here. And then just to crash them in the end.
So how are they? I mean, how are they giving loans to these people? I mean, there's got to be some sort of sense of security. They're going to get their money.
So the biggest thing is, because it's no credit needed, is that's what's so odd to me, is no credit checks, none of the above. They expect you to default on the loan so then they can then take either the property or the vehicle back and then sell it to somebody else. So it's basically like a big Ponzi scheme it's an infinite money glitch is how I would describe it. They expect the people, because the interest rates are so high, to not be able to pay it. Yeah, you put $1,000 down, you have this, what is perceived to be, this great, beautiful property, you own your own land, but then you can't keep up with payments because the interest rate is so high. So then they just take it back from you and then sell it off to somebody else again.
Wow.
But there's over 80,000 residents. Over 90% of them are illegal immigrants in this one town.
I mean, it seems like if Texas want to do something, why not go out? Why not just crack down on a town like that? Mm-hmm. Especially if you got cartels and you've got all sorts of other stuff going on in there.
Well, and there's confirmed cartels. There's the Liberty County, the local sheriff's office there. They've confirmed a lot of cartel activity there. And, thankfully, I say thankfully, but not thankfully, because they don't usually cartels, how they operate is they don't operate within their own communities. They operate outside of their own communities. But that means what's outside of their community, that is American soil. That is essentially the surrounding towns like Plum Grove and those things like that. So you have cartels being allowed to operate in Texas, essentially with no repercussions, none of the above. There's confirmed human smuggling here, human trafficking here, drug trafficking. So pretty much any crime that you can possibly think, they're doing it in Colony Ridge.
Wow. So, all right. So that was last week. Tell me or tell our audience, what was one of your bigger stories that you broke that you're proud of?
There's been a lot, but regarding illegal immigration, my favorite was probably when it was at its peak, when record numbers were being broken down in Eagle Pass. There was essentially this makeshift apprehension camp, being built, and it was so bad that they were so understaffed because of how many illegals were coming over, thousands every few hours, that they had to shut down both international bridges, no actual transportation. So it essentially cut off all trade. And we went down there. It was 2 a.m. at night. And we we're sitting there. It has this big old, no media sign, of course, past this point, and we watch CNN, kind of sneak their way down, and they're getting a corner. They think they have this super exclusive shot, and I looked over at my cameraman and I was like, okay, CNN's going to do this. We're going in. We're actually going in and going to walk amongst them. So, we went in and we got the only footage of the reality on the ground.
That?
Yeah, I can pull it up somewhere. But that was probably one of my favorite stories that I broke in as of recent. And that was in December, right before the National Guard actually got involved and shut that area down. Which, Greg Abbott, he has a lot of problems. He should have done this 3 years ago. But now that this is actually somewhat controlled in Texas, it has lessened the effects on illegal immigration in Texas. But the cartels, they just reorganize and they push them over to Arizona. That's why you're seeing record numbers in Arizona now, where they push them over to the San Diego, Tijuana region.
So somewhere where they know they're not going to get pushed back.
Exactly.
And then they get pushed back here, they move over here.
Yep. Well, they're multi-billion-dollar businesses. They have the funds. They have all the things at their disposal, all the spotters, anything that you can possibly think of. They are more equipped than the U.S. government in a lot of situations. Yeah, this is footage from the actual makeshift apprehension camp, and this is one of the craziest things that I've ever seen.
But let me take you through a quick little walkthrough real quick.
Can you turn the volume up?
As you can see, they're all wearing these silver blankets.
Looks like
It
it
might
is.
be on the TV.
It's pretty cold out here right now. And we're just gonna walk directly in here and see what we can do here. Some of these people have been waiting, over 24 hours awaiting processing here in Texas.
You have over 1,000 illegals right here in this one area, and funny part about this is these silver blankets that they're given. Those are to reflect heat, so they're wearing them backwards, at least the majority of them. But it was seriously so crazy being down here and seeing it, because there's so many that you're tripping on them as you go. As you're making a report, you're literally just tripping. And this is just at 2 a.m. This is the line awaiting to be processed. Not even, there's a whole separate line waiting to be processed by CBP and Border Patrol.
Idea of how many people are actually just confined in this one area.
It's wild.
Yeah, it was by far one of the craziest things that I've ever seen in all my years of reporting. And that says a lot, because I've seen some pretty crazy things.
Yeah, especially you're down in Chaz and seeing what's happened during the Summer of Love and all the riots. So fascinating. So obviously, and I think a lot of most people are very aware now, just in the media, what's been going on at the border and the record numbers of people coming through. I love that you guys are here in Utah now. So tell us and talk to our listeners, because you've broke some pretty cool stuff about what's going on in Utah. So talk to us about Utah. What have you seen in Utah that's been interesting?
So I've seen Utah. I lived here in 2020, moved away to Texas to do more immigration-based reporting and to work with Blaze TV indirectly. And since I came back, I have literally watched Utah turn into a sanctuary state. Governor Cox says, no, we're not a sanctuary state. No, you absolutely are. Every single time I'm on the border or in a border town, I'm looking through their passports that these NGOs give these people, these flight tickets, and almost every single time I have at least 1 to 5 illegal immigrants on my plane. Doesn't matter what region of Texas I'm flying from, coming to Salt Lake City as their final destination.
It's interesting because Cox has been clearly under pressure, because it's like he is sending out an email almost every week now. In fact, the last one was hilarious. The last one that came out, he was saying, I'm actually going to read it. We'll put it up on the screen here.
Well, and it was funny. He sent that out right after I broke this story about the Venezuelan soldier sitting next to me on the plane coming to Salt Lake City. And then Timcast, IRL, they talked about it on his show. And he's getting a bunch of tags. And then conveniently he puts out this fluff piece.
So here's what he sends out. This is actually one he sent to Alexia. She's a delegate. He says, Alexia, last week I spoke with you about how our state has never, in all caps, been a sanctuary state, nor will it ever be under the Cox-Henderson administration. This week, I am honored to announce the full support of Texas Governor Greg Abbott in our vital mission to ensure Utah remains safe, free, and prosperous. And then he's got a image of Abbott saying, thanks to Utah and the leadership of Governor Cox for standing with Texas and supporting our mission to secure the border.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, and it's just all virtue signaling. That's the thing, is that's what all politics are. But especially here in Utah, I've noticed, since my short time of being back, Governor Cox is one of the worst at it. And it's
Well, he straight up
blatantly
lies.
obvious.
He straight up lies.
Yeah. Well, and he's lying to his constituents. He's lying to Americans. He's lying to people all across the country that know what's actually happening. And it's like, you can't. Can you swear on here?
Go for it.
Okay, I'll say you can't BS a BSer. We'll put it that way.
you go.
Like I'm on the border. I'm seeing that they're coming to Salt Lake City. I have them on every single flight with me on the way back. And, I have conversations with these people. They're getting picked up from NGOs. They're using Lyft. The NGOs facilitating Lyft now to give them rides to their final location of where they're going to essentially just sit until who knows whether the cell's activated. I mean, in this case, I'm literally sitting next to a Venezuelan soldier.
Show us this. Yeah. Show us
And, this was on March 22nd, so
this
very
is the
recent.
one that went viral with Tim Castro.
Yes, yeah.
So tell us about this.
This one was insane. I'm sitting next to this immigrant on this plane, and that's normal to me. I'm used to that. Like, it just happens every single time. So I didn't think much of it at the time. Didn't take any pictures other than this. And then he starts flipping through this immigration document, these forms, and I took some sneak pictures and. This is the questionnaire. So when they get into America, they get processed. They are questioned by the Citizen and Immigration Services, essentially. So CBP goes through a whole questioning line with them. And it says, have you ever served in the military or ever received any military-type training? And it says yes. And he has a family, and he left his entire family in Venezuela, which that seems kind of weird to me. If you're fleeing conditions that you are supposedly scared of being persecuted for, why are you leaving your wife and your 2 children in Venezuela? And there's a good quote along the lines of, when you're going to war, you leave your family, but when you're fleeing war, you bring them.
Right.
And in this case, they are quite literally, at least in my experience and what I've seen, they're going to war. But then this just kind of adds on to the fact he served in the armed forces. And, there's a portion of this document that wasn't shown, but he had actually had 2 colleagues of his in the armed forces that were arrested. So that makes you kind of even raise more suspicions of why were these guys arrested by the Venezuelan government. And we know, in Venezuela, they have basically opened all their prisons. So that's the majority of people that you're getting here are prisoners now fleeing. They don't want to be they don't want to be, re-prosecuted by the Venezuelan government because they're savages out there. And now they're fleeing to America. So we're getting the best of the best people here.
Well, and I know you saw the article that came out in Bloomberg about Venezuela having a 22 year low in crime, the lowest crime in 22 years. Well, and they actually say due to immigration because everyone's leaving there and coming to the States, coming to our backyard.
Yeah, well, and then you also see it correlate too. Now Utah crime rates are raising in certain places where these illegals are being placed. I mean, look at Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, even Riverton, Utah, which is a very high income area. Now crime rates are slowly creeping up. So you're wondering why, what is the ultimate goal of this? But I mean, Governor Cox calls them new Americans. So
tell us about that.
Yeah, well, his designation for illegal immigrants are new Americans on their website. So they're not calling them illegal immigrants because they don't believe that they're illegal. I mean, these are the type of people that say no human being is illegal. And I think that's kind of the manipulation, guys, of him saying that we are not a sanctuary state, but we are a sanctuary state. All the evidence proves to it. You have over 80,000, and that's just rough numbers, illegal immigrants since the Biden administration came.
Run that. How many illegals are here?
So over 80,000 illegals since the Biden administration took office, and that's just what's known. And even on their website, they advertise over 140,000 new Americans, and they advertise it as they're going to strengthen our economy. They show these beautiful pictures of our mountains, our ski slopes, as if these people are going to be, working at Brighton or Snowbird or something. And it's like, come on.
Do you think ski resorts are hiring? Because I've had some people say, hey, Jason, and actually call me and says, we're seeing all these people that look like they're illegal starting to work for these ski resorts. Do you know anything about that? Or if that?
I don't know anything explicitly about that, but I would imagine they are. I mean, why wouldn't they? When you basically have cheaper labor, it's essentially slave labor. And that's what this whole, people don't understand that this new class of new Americans, that's what they're being used for in a lot of capacity. I mean, you see in New York, they're moving into people's homes. They're cooking for people, they're cleaning for people. And it's like, what do you call that? Okay, that's a loose form of slavery. And, upon that, you have soldiers coming over here in mass. They're not checking their backgrounds. They're not checking any of these things. You have criminals, you have murderers being arrested. You have American citizens being raped, murdered, beheaded, just mutilated in every single way. And it makes you wonder, okay, what is the ultimate goal of all of this? And then, military recruiting is an all-time low. So it makes you wonder, okay, are they going to try and recruit these illegal immigrants later on because our recruiting system has completely fallen apart?
Yeah, Brett Weinstein and Michael Yon seemed to think that's part of the strategy, and I think there's a lot of people who think that they're going to be using.
Personally, I think that's probably the route that it will go to, because nobody wants to join the Army. Nobody wants to join even the Marines now, and that says a lot. I mean, we used to live in a country that was extremely patriotic. I mean, look at post 9/11, and of course the repercussions of 9/11, the Iraq War, all of those things. But Americans used to love America, and now Americans quite literally hate America, and they're working against themselves. At least, half of the population is. And I think with the recruitment numbers so low, you're eventually going to have them say, okay, well, we have this whole class of people here that we can just scoop up and then go fight our our foreign interest wars that actually don't benefit Americans, because they don't want to fight for us anymore. We don't want to institute the draft because that would cause a lot of problems. So why don't we just draft all these illegal immigrants to go and die for our worthless cause
Well,
overseas?
they also chased out anyone who was willing to think for themselves by saying, if you don't get the jab, you're out of here.
Yep.
So they chased out a lot of people who the type of people who you would want in the military. And a lot of people are starting to suspect is this a military that could be used on its own people when you start to bring in people like that. And where you look at the government is literally targeting the FBI, the Department of Justice, targeting conservatives, is saying that we are domestic terrorists, targeting mothers who show up at the school board meetings, targeting people who showed up at January 6th. That's where they're putting all their effort, arresting these people. Meanwhile, the borders are wide open.
Yep.
I mean, you clearly have a government that is weaponizing itself against those who believe in the principles of the Constitution and believe in limited government. And while this government balloons into a more globalist thing, and shifting gears a little bit is, because Cox has been relentlessly defending and clearly and this is the good news. Clearly this is hitting him.
Oh, 100%.
Clearly this is a chink in the armor that is hitting his polling numbers. And so I want to give our listeners some ammo so that you can share this to your friends. And because as he comes out and tries to lie, just like he lied, there's no such thing as smart cities, it's important that you're armed with the proper documentation to back up and prove that he is lying. So first off, you've got the ICE memo here, and here's two different ICE memos we're going to put here. And by the way, all of these can be found in a link below on our website. So if you go to wearethepeople.org and go to resources and you go to Sanctuary State, all of these are here so you can share them with your friends. So you've got the two different ICE memos. By the way, so after the ICE agent came out to Trent Staggs and basically told him that Cox was refusing to work with them, Staggs put that out nationally. That within 2 days, Cox got a hold of, did you hear about this? Gets a hold of the ICE agent, has a closed door meeting.
Of course.
When that closed door meeting is over, the ICE agent comes out and rescinds it. Mm-hmm. And now Cox shows that as proof. Oh no, we aren't. Look, here's from the ICE memo. It says we are not a sanctuary state. So he may have rescinded it when Cox got him in that backdoor meeting. But the fact of the matter is, the stats about the 67% of illegals being released back on the streets still is reality. And here we go, saltlake.gov. Salt Lake joins amicus brief opposing President Trump's Sanctuary City executive order. Today, Mayor Jackie Biskuski announced Salt Lake City has joined 33 other cities and counties across the United States in a friend of the court brief supporting Santa Clara County's motion to block enforcement of President Trump's executive order. If you go to FAIR, which is Federation for American Immigration Reform, they list 7 lesser-known sanctuary cities in the United States. Well, here we go. In January 2017, Mayor Jackie Biskuski did not fully commit to adopting sanctuary policies, but declared, "We are doing everything that a sanctuary city is doing." Echoing the mayor, Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown said it has been department policy not to question individuals about their immigration status. And it goes on. You can read that on your own, and you can have a copy of that on the website. And then the other thing is this right here. Then also, if you need further documentation, if you go to Center for Immigration Studies, and we've got the link to it right here, they have a map of sanctuary cities and counties and states. And if you scroll down, you see an image of the entire state or entire country, and just zoom right into Utah. And what have you got? Boom, Utah right there. You click on it, and they have Utah as a sanctuary state. Scroll down, sanctuary cities list, and here's the states listed, and boom, right there, Utah. So clearly, you know, when you start to add up all this stuff, Utah is a sanctuary state, regardless of what Cox wants to say. And one of the challenges is this. This is why I appreciate what you guys are doing, is the mainstream media in Utah is part of the problem.
Yep.
What have you seen about how they have?
They're essentially running cover.
What have you seen with the media? How the media's handled this? Because the media, to me, is the biggest part of the problem.
Oh, well, they are the problem. That's the thing. And it's not just Utah media, but national media. We've seen this, you know, the fake news thing. You know, Trump kind of got that started, but Utah has a severe problem with that, especially. I mean, they're all beholden to the same special interests. They're all taking money from the exact same people. And it makes you wonder, okay, what narratives are they pushing? You know, people, at this point, if you don't believe that news pushes a narrative, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. That is the entire business of news. Even honest news, they push narratives. And, you know, in my news, I tell people, yeah, I am extremely right-wing, but I'm going to cover the story accurately and honestly. I don't mix those two things. I have my opinions, and I'm not going to cover up for something no matter how inconvenient the truth. But that is not how the news works in Utah or nationally at all, at least when it comes to mainstream media.
So you got two things. One, because I've got a son-in-law who's a police officer, and then a friend who watches the show and big supporter who's a police officer. And one of the things they tell me is they say, Jason, what you hear in the news as far as crime is so underplayed. Like, they make it look like there is nothing wrong here in Utah, that it is Happy Valley, that there's nothing going on. He says, what we see, he says, the murders we're seeing, the criminal activity we're seeing, the illegal activity we're seeing is through the roof. But the average person doesn't think there's any problems because the media doesn't cover it. And when they do talk about these, like the 11-year-old girl that got raped, first off, almost no media will talk about it. And the only two that do talk about it, a Lehigh man did it, or it was a 26-year-old man. They will not call it illegal. So meanwhile, what does the average person here in Utah think? No problem. So why should I worry about being involved in politics? Why do I need to worry about Cox? Why do I need to worry about, you know, our legislators? They're clearly doing a good job, because everything I'm seeing on the media and we're in Happy Valley.
Yep. Well, and a lot of the times when they refer to illegal immigrants in news, and even, you know, local or national, they don't ever use the word illegal alien or illegal immigrant. You know, they use a pseudonym for it, or they say something, you know, man or woman or something like those along the lines. And that just takes away from the actual story of what's going on. I mean, literally in American Fork, you had the story that you had sent me. It was 30 pounds of fentanyl pills that were found from an illegal immigrant. And, you know, they just kind of brushed that under the rug. Yeah, it hits some news cycles, but the news cycle isn't actually a news cycle unless mainstream media reports on it. And that's the intention. Yeah, you have some honest media out here. You know, it's very rare and few in between. But and then even when they do report accurately, and they report what should be a national bombshell story, 30 pounds of fentanyl that can kill hundreds of thousands of Americans, hundreds of thousands of Utahns. And that's just swept under the rug because it doesn't hit the news cycle because it's inconvenient to their narrative.
And to me, that's where it falls onto our listeners, because that's why I love having people like you guys doing what you're doing and exposing this stuff. The challenge is if the only way to fix things, Utah has a culture problem. We have a culture of people who think all is well in Zion. There's no problems here, and that's what allows Utah to be what Best Life calls. Have you heard this? Have seen this Best Life article where they say Utah is the second most corrupt state in the country? How has the corruption got so out of control? It's because nobody's looking for it. Because everybody thinks, you know, it's this culture of everything's well. There's no problems. It's, you know, it's a family. It's safe. Well, the reality is we have been captured in many ways, and the media is just absolutely fueling that. So I appreciate what you guys are doing and helping expose that. But to our listeners, I mean, the only way this is going to change is by you guys getting this information out to your friends. And I'll tell you, people are doing a great job. And I'll tell you that the way we know we're doing a good job is Cox is terrified right now.
And he should be.
And he should be, because he is a traitor to the state. He is a globalist. His objective is not about national sovereignty or about protecting the Constitution. His objective is to move Utah into alignment with the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, into the new globalist agenda that they're trying to push through the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, no, and I love the confrontation you had with Cox on the smart cities, because it shows you he gets so nervous. I mean, he can't hide literally anything when he's actually pressed on it, and I plan on confronting Cox in many occasions after this, because people need to apply pressure, and people don't understand, too, like, I woke up one day and I accidentally became a journalist. I accidentally became a national news reporter and kind of rose into the spotlight with the riots. I just used a camera. And citizen journalism is becoming so prominent that anybody can do it. If you see Cox in public, if you see one of these legislators that are, you know, corrupt, I mean, genuinely corrupt, like Governor Cox, take your camera out and say something to them. I mean, because it goes a long ways. Those videos are seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and it just makes them more scared.
Let's hit on that because there's so many people, and the biggest thing I get on our social media, because we get a lot more people on Instagram than we do watching the actual YouTube videos, but the biggest thing I hear people saying is, what can I do? Mm-hmm. What can I do? How can I be involved? And I think you can't really answer that for everybody because everyone has their own talents and strengths and God-given missions. But you hit on important things, and I believe we need a lot more citizen journalism. Would you guys kind of talk about how you guys got involved with that and how kind of give a little bit more examples to how our listeners, those who feel called, like, I'd like to be a James O'Keefe. Mm-hmm. Like, how do they go about getting involved?
I will say, it's not a fun route or a pretty route when you first get involved or even when you're, deep involved, but you can't let that deter you because you're doing the right thing. I mean, I woke up one day, I was into activism before I was into journalism. I was painting Baby Lives Matter murals, outside of abortion clinics essentially because I was opposed to abortion and I saw what Black Lives Matter was doing and how they were virtue signaling across the country. And one day I woke up to a video of Jay Bishop getting shot and killed by Michael Renault in Portland, Oregon. And for some reason, it just kind of flipped a switch in me. I said, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to document this riot. And I went out there, night 100 of rioting in a row, and I captured a clip of, Antifa throwing a Molotov, lighting their own guy on fire. And that clip then went viral. President Trump shared it when he was in office. And next thing I knew, I'm a journalist. Like, you can get into it on accident. My career choice, I never in my mind, in high school, even outside of high school, I didn't think I was going to be a journalist. I didn't think I was going to be exposing corruption on a mass scale ever. I mean, that's not what I was into. That's not what I had a passion for or a tick for. And then one thing, I just kind of fell right into it. But everybody has supercomputers in their pocket. And citizen journalism, anybody can do it. I genuinely believe that. Just get well researched on the topic, at least the one that you want to hone in first, because you're never just going to be, you can be a master in one topic, but I think, there's certain specialists for that are already doing those things. So you should be wanting to cover a broad spectrum of things, but find something that you're passionate about, because everything I report on is due to personal biases. I think illegal immigration is a huge problem. So I focus on illegal immigration, but all it takes is you taking out a camera, one video going viral of you confronting Governor Cox, or you documenting something that you think is suspicious. And then you have other people in the industry kind of elevate you and lift you up. And that's really what it's about. And I encourage every single person, if you have a passion for the truth, or if you want to save your home state, Utah, or if you have out-of-state listeners that are tuning in, just pick up a camera. It really is that easy, and just keep going and keep doing it. I mean, I still to this day, I film every single thing on my smartphone, just on my iPhone. And, we're breaking national news stories. We're changing how politics works and how the culture works just due to an iPhone in my pocket. I don't find myself particularly talented, smart, anything, but over the years, as you get more into it and you learn more, you kind of hone your craft. And that's what I would recommend, is anybody can do it. You could be sitting on your couch right now watching this. At one point, that's who I was. I didn't have a direction in life. I didn't have anything that I wanted to do specifically. And next thing I knew, I'm a national news reporter.
I love it. Mia, what do you think? What would you say about that?
I would say your credibility is built off of constantly reporting the truth. It's not just going to be built off of some degree, like going to college. Like, you didn't get some journalism degree.
I went to college for
that.
a month and dropped out.
Yeah, no, people just
That's
see,
my style.
They just see your character. They see the truth. They see what you stand for. And from there, that's what, people are going to follow. They're going to support your work.
Well, and you have to be authentic is the biggest thing.
Exactly.
And that's what I've learned in my years of reporting. I was blacklisted. I used to be so in my head about, I covered January 6th and that topic, the deadly shooting of Ashley Babbitt. And I was outspoken about it because it was wrong. I believed that it was murder. I watched it firsthand. And then I remember going back to my hotel room and watching the coverage of it. They're using my footage, canceling my appearance on the show so then they can paint her as a domestic terrorist who was violent, breaking windows, when it was the exact opposite. She was actually trying to help officers in that room and to, de-escalate the situation. So in that moment, I realized, okay, I need to really stand up for something. And I stood up for Ashley Babbitt and her right to be there, and the situation and what happened and how the media was portraying it. And I was punished for it in every single way. I mean, I was blacklisted from multiple mainstream or even conservative mainstream media outlets. I couldn't get a job. I was independent. I was, working 3 jobs at sometimes trying to fund my own journalism. And it gets to that, but then in the end, it pays off because a media company that does have values, does have intentions, or you could just get big enough independently. And that's the thing that I pride myself on most is, I have a wacky, spunky personality. I do some things that are out of the ordinary, or I report on things or say things that aren't mainstream. but you don't want to be mainstream. You've seen what mainstream media has done to this country, what they have essentially led the American population to believe, and it's crap. It's garbage. They lie. They're propagandists. A lot of them are on the CIA's payroll at this point, and you don't want to be that person. No matter how long it takes you to build up your portfolio or to build up who you are, just stick to your guns, always remain the same, and who you genuinely believe. Follow your morals, follow your values, and that will lead you to the truth if you want to expose the truth.
I love it. Mia, we're going to start wrapping up here. If you got some closing thoughts for the people here, for our listeners here in Utah, what would it be? What would you want to share with people?
I would just say truth prevails. Stick to it. Keep looking deeper. Don't just believe what's on the surface. Some things might, like, for example, when I came to Utah, I came from Florida.
I was about to say you're from Florida.
I thought it was just like, I'd love to raise kids here. Like that's exactly what I would see here, just a bunch of families and stuff. I would never think it goes deeper. And like you were saying, it's like an onion, like each layer, you just keep peeling it and you're like, what is going on here? It is really insane. But I think as people, like, we can all come together and realize what's going on and just, speak out about it. And that's the best of the power that we can do here.
Words have power.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they definitely do. I really like you guys. I think the thing I love is I think that is the path, and is each person standing up and finding their line, their lane, whatever that lane is. And, it's when you're talking about never, seeing yourself being a journalist, I never, this is something I would say is probably one of the least comfortable things I'm doing, is doing this. This is something that's taken me a lot of time getting comfortable doing. But where did I get started? I literally just one day felt, inspired to run for office in 2021, to run for Congress. And I have no political background. I've got a shady past. And I was like, what, it felt very much like inspired. And I'm like, God, is this like a joke?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I was like, my background, like how is this even like makes no sense. Mm-hmm. But it was like, I prayed about it, and like kept getting all these answers. And it's like, you know what? Like, let's just go, let's just.
Well, and we see that God chooses people that, normally wouldn't have been chosen. I mean, look at the story of Paul or Saul, and then he turned into Paul. I mean, he's a perfect example of it. Spread God's word to countless people. And I mean, that is the prime example of, I didn't think, I have a shady past. I did a lot of things that I regret in high school. I wasn't a fantastic person, and I admit that publicly. But it's like, you don't have to be, because that is your past for a reason, as long as you move away from that. And I genuinely believe that people that do the most damage to the mainstream narrative, like people like you, people like me, people like other amazing independent creators in this industry, they all have that same feeling or that same calling. They didn't want to do this. They didn't even have a tick for it or a passion for it. And one day they woke up and they felt as if something was calling them to do it. And I really do believe that.
And that was what was cool, is it was like, what I just finally told my wife and, told my family, and everyone was like, are you serious? Like, it was almost like, what a joke, You're like, for real. Like, and everyone was like, what are you doing? But I did it. I just followed my heart. And it was, what's crazy is it was an amazing experience, and we had an incredible run. And I will tell you, God elevated me to a level I never thought of myself as capable of being. And He changed me. He helped me grow into the role. And I didn't obviously win, but it changed the trajectory of my life forever.
Yep.
And once that came to an end, it was like, okay, God, what's next? And it's like, I'm not done fighting for freedom. The corruption is still here. And I realized we have to focus on waking people up. We have to focus on changing the culture and competing with the mainstream media, because you cannot fix a problem if people don't see it. So I felt, all right, the best way to do that is through media. And so we just started doing radio, and then that evolved into this podcast, which is why it's Weird People Radio. It started as radio, and then it's evolved into this. And if you go back, you can see all the old shows, and I suck. It was like, clearly, and I still struggle, but it doesn't matter. To me, it's more important that we fight the fight, mm-hmm. despite our weaknesses. Yeah. And so the reason I'm sharing that with you guys is, I know that I get so many comments on Instagram is, what do we do? What do we do? And the answer is just stand up and fight wherever that is. And this is, to me, it's get right with God as best you can, mm-hmm. and follow your heart. And if you feel like you're too weak, and it doesn't matter. Like, just fight. Like, go for it. And as you do that, God will help you develop you into a better man or woman so that you can become capable. But, I will tell our listeners, this is exciting, because while, yes, we're getting our butts handed to us politically with, the Utah establishment, with the Utah GOP is completely taken. I'm so frustrated with this systems. The awesome news is we are winning the cultural war now.
Absolutely.
There are so many people who are awake, who are ticked off, and all you do is go to social media and see a post about Cox, and you see the comments go crazy.
Even on his own page.
Even on his own page. And so to our listeners, keep fighting. Whether it's just on social media and sharing and spreading things, putting out your own post, or get out and do some citizen journalism. Go out and find these, we hear about people dropping these people off at churches or at these apartments. Go find them. Mm-hmm. Get video footage. If you've got that footage, we would love to bring you on and help share that stuff, because we need that stuff getting out. And I will tell you, this is going to be we the people that win this company. That's our country. That's why it's us. It's not the politicians. It's not the media. It's we. It's we the people, and that's who you are. So, anyways, you guys are rock stars. So Tayler and Mia, you guys are going to be seeing these guys a lot more if I have anything to do with it, because we need more of this in Utah. And so, and as you guys continue to step up and when we get more people doing this, we're going to take down the mainstream media, and we're going to take this state back. And it's going to be because of people like you guys and rock stars like you. So anyways, thank you guys for viewing. Thanks for sharing and for tuning in. And it is an amazing freaking time to be alive.
Amen.
Amen. So God bless you guys. God bless America, and God bless Utah.